So we are back with Your Take, and we're talking about no-shows. This is what they're called, and really, they can have an effect on a restaurant's bottom line. Any restaurant owners, people who work in restaurants, you're probably, this is intriguing you, come close. And this is why some establishments are turning to other ways of dealing with the problem, by asking customers to pay a fee when they make the reservation. This is what we're looking at in today's Your Take chat. So I've come across a few stats, different stats, generally looking at the number of no-shows, and these are people who make a reservation but don't show up and they don't cancel, also possibly known as floppers. And it can vary between 6 to 20%, and this is per night, guys.
Night.
Ben, Liz, I want to ask you, when you make a reservation and if you can't show up to the restaurant, how do you handle the situation? Do you cancel?
I do.
Yeah, I do my best to. I mean, unless there's a very good reason for me not to call, I absolutely will call.
Okay.
Yeah, you kind of have to. I mean, I always feel really badly because you're just, you're taking up a table.
Yeah.
Right? And they tell you ahead of time too. They're like, listen, if you some restaurant they'll tell you if you don't get there within like 20 minutes, we're giving your table away.
Right.
That
And
kind of thing.
We know I've watched a lot of those restaurant makeover shows and stuff. There is an exact number associated with how much money you can make per seat, per table in a restaurant. And if you don't show up, that is money that's being taken directly out of the pocket of the owner of the restaurant.
That's a really good point, Ben, especially for smaller restaurants. I mean, the chain restaurants, you usually have high turnover, many people coming in because they know your restaurant, but for smaller restaurants, margins are very thin. So we did some research, a bit of digging here, to find out what are the profit margins for restaurants. And you know what? This surprised me. They can range anywhere from just 2 to 6%, and that's before taxes. So if there are a couple tables that don't show, that can easily break a night for a restaurant.
Yeah.
And also think about the amount of people that work in the restaurant industry. Many people rely on tips because we know restaurant workers, servers, they don't make the normal minimum wage. They make a minimum wage that is slightly below the minimum wage across provinces,
tips, right?
So take a look at this. Over 1.2 million people, Canadians, work in the restaurant industry in Canada. So if tables are not showing up, that's money lost for the restaurant owner, but that's also lost money for many people who are servers. So
what's the solution here?
Well, this is the thing. Many restaurants, and we're starting to see a trend now, they are trying to do different things. Like, for example, charging people a fee for not showing up. And we've seen some examples in Vancouver, also in Toronto.
Yep.
Some restaurants will charge you a $50 deposit. If you don't show, at least they can recoup some of those costs. Other restaurants will flat out charge you for your meal for what they
I've never heard of this.
Yes.
They'll charge you for your meal before you've even stepped in the door.
Exactly. And this will be like a pre-prepared meal where you don't order off a menu.
Like
it's just a set
menu.
menu.
Set menu.
Right. So if it's, for example, we saw a restaurant who had this set menu, the cost was $85. They would charge your credit card that $85. Now, if you come, obviously, then you got your meal for that. But if you don't, at least the restaurant is recouping that cost.
But it's not, to me, this is not shocking at all. It's an extension of what we're already doing. I mean, I go to a lot of class-based gyms, right, where you have to go. You've got a teacher in the class, and you prepay. You buy a block of classes, and if you don't show up, you get charged.
I wonder how people would feel about that, though, at a restaurant. Would you think twice about making that reservation, knowing that you'd be paying up front?
I would think twice about canceling that reservation.
Well, you send somebody else in your place.
But there you go, and then the restaurant wins, and then you look like a very benevolent friend.
You want to hear another thing that some restaurants are doing?
Yeah.
This one really surprised me. They're actually publicly shaming people on social media. Yeah. So we found some examples of where restaurants will basically take a picture of, let's say, your name, and then put it on social media and say, this person didn't show up. But when you think about it, like, this is the livelihoods of so many people,
right?
But
if it is your livelihood, then you owe it to yourself to take steps prior to shaming people to ensure that
they're never going to come back again if you shame them.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like, you got to make sure, and other people might stay away as well.
Yeah.
There are these other avenues for you. Take advantage of those before shaming people.
Well, it's an interesting conversation, right? And this is why many restaurants are trying different things. So here's the Your Take question. Come close, listen up. Would you pay to make a restaurant reservation? Hit us up right now on Twitter and Facebook, even on Instagram. Let us know, #YourTake. Would you pay for a restaurant reservation?